most anticipated motorcycle of 2014, the racier version of the KTM 390 Duke, the RC390. And we've come here for the international launch in Modena, Italy, to see what it's all about. The RC looks like a proper sports bike, and it has a lot of cool, innovative touches, like the projector headlamps. One is for the low beam and the other is for the high beam. Look further down and on the chin you'll find the daytime running lights. Then there are the floating panels. The screen around the headlamp is clear, which is backed by a black layer underneath it. The rear view mirrors look sharp, but once you're in the saddle they're quite useless. But the stalks hold these discrete turn indicators. Once in the cockpit, you'll find a familiar digital display which is carried over from the Dukes. There is a new sculpted look for the fuel tank, and it also houses the battery at the front now, which has reduced fuel tank capacity to 10 liters. Look further down and you'll find that the engine fairing overlaps the belly fairing, which is a separate panel. The rider's seat is well shaped and roomy, and the rear seat might look like a cowl, but it is a proper pillion seat. Underneath there are these cool grooves, but for India, KTM will install proper grab rails for the pillion. Another neat touch is the all-LED tail lamp that's smeared underneath. Look further down and you'll find that there's a simple and discreet design for the hugger, which still manages to look very functional. Other improvements include new forged foot pedals instead of the cast units on the Duke. And these also feature more prominent heel plates for track use. The RC200 features the same design as the RC390. However, it has the advantage of this superb black color scheme, which I would just love to see on the RC390 as well. So is it just a sportier looking motorcycle, or is it actually sporty? Well, on the engine front, it's shared with the 390 Duke, no changes there. But the chassis has a couple of critical changes. For instance, the steering head angle is sharper, which means the wheelbase is smaller. It has got a bit more ground clearance. The seat height is up by 20mm to 820mm, and all of this has kind of pushed the center of gravity up. And that means it should be more agile. What better place to test that than a racetrack? Seating position will be aggressive as you lean onto the new clip-on handlebars, and the foot pegs have been raised a bit as well. But thanks to the higher seat height, 6-footers won't feel cramped in the saddle either. Along with the new fairing and the revised ergonomics, the RC has a more front bias weight distribution. The 43mm upside down forks are carried over, but there's 25mm less travel at the front, and it is stiffer as well. The setup at the rear has been stiffened as well. On the track, it's clear that the RC390 feels sharper and more immediate in the way it responds to inputs at the handlebar. No doubt, it is helped by the steeper rake and the wider clip-ons. However, the RC isn't short on confidence. It will beg you to ride harder. And while KTM say that the engine is carried over unchanged, it did feel a bit smoother than the Duke's. At the same time, it has the grunt to send you scurrying out of corners without breaking a sweat. KTM claims that the fairing helps the RC accelerate to a top speed of 175 km/h, which is higher than the Duke. One thing is for sure, the wind deflector helps the rider because it reduces the wind pressure on the torso considerably. This motorcycle is really very much at home on the racetrack. The way it delivers, whether it's the quickness of its turning, whether it's stability in long corners, or the engine itself giving you solid drive out of corners. You don't really need to be in the precise gear. You can make a mistake, not just in which gear you're in, the lines you pick, the motorcycle forgives. It's a great bike to learn how to ride on a racetrack on. And for a lot of people, I think it's going to be a very exciting motorcycle if it's your introduction to sports bikes. To get this kind of an experience, you probably have to spend tens of lakhs of rupees more to really get
something as sharp and precise as this. But in India, I think most people are going to be using this to commute on normal city roads. What is it like on those surfaces?
Our street ride proved that the seating position is a bit stressful for the back and the arms. Surprisingly though, the front shock, despite the stiffer setup and the shorter travel, it didn't feel harsh or overly stiff. However, for Indian roads, you will have to be careful as you navigate over up pothole roads. ABS is offered as standard even on the RC and no doubt will endow you with more confidence in Indian conditions.
True to KTM ethos, the RC390 is a very focused motorcycle, and as a sports bike, it delivers in spades. On a track, I think for this price you really can't get anything better, especially not in India. But again, in Indian conditions, for everyday duties, it's going to be a bit of a stretch because of the aggressive seating position. The ride quality is also going to be a bit firm, and well, this rear seat is going to make it a bit more practical, but still, pillion up isn't going to be ideal on this motorcycle. Nonetheless, for somebody looking for a sports bike, something to learn on, really learn how to ride on, the RC390 is going to be a beautiful motorcycle, and you can expect it to be priced really attractively when it is launched in India.